You know, when you take a step back and really look at this Cowboys running back room right now, it's hard not to notice just how crowded and unsettled it feels. We don't have that one clear superstar commanding the position at the moment. What we do have is a collection of players, some young, some experienced, and all fighting for a role. Rookies like Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa are coming in hungry, trying to prove they belong in the NFL. Then you've got veterans like Malik Davis and Deuce Vaughn, each with their own story and their own reasons to fight for every carry. It's a group of guys who are all decent players, but the reality is, at this point in camp, none of them have separated themselves as the undisputed lead option. And that's the challenge, not just for the players, but for the coaching staff. The Cowboys have to figure out who gives them the best chance to win on Sundays, but here's where it gets tricky. This organization has a history of letting storylines play a role in decisions. Sometimes the emotional pull of a good story can cloud the cold reality of what happens on the field. And right now, that tension is alive and well in the running back battle. We've seen it before. A player who might not have been the most talented, but who carried a narrative the team knew would connect with fans. And in Dallas, whether we like it or not, marketing value can sometimes carry almost as much weight as production. That's part of the DNA of this franchise. So, here's the big question I want you to think about. When final cuts come, will this running back group be decided purely on performance, or will there be other factors at play? Who do you see stepping up and locking down that RB2 or RB3 spot? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and while you're at it, hit that subscribe button to help us get to 16,000 subscribers. You're not going to want to miss how this battle plays out. When it comes to Deuce Vaughn, you can't talk about his place on this roster without mentioning the story that came with him on draft night. Everyone remembers it. His father, Chris Vaughn, working for the Cowboys in the scouting department, making that emotional call to his son to tell him he'd been drafted. It was one of those moments that instantly went viral, not just in Dallas, but across the NFL. And let's be honest, the Cowboys know how powerful a moment like that can be. But here's the question. If his father didn't work for the organization, would Dallas have drafted him at all? That's not meant as disrespect to Deuce because he's worked incredibly hard to get here, but you have to look at it from a team-building perspective. The Cowboys are a business, and sometimes they make decisions that feed into the brand and the story just as much as they feed into winning football games. And the reality is, this offseason didn't do Vaughn any favors. When the team brought in Stevonte Williams and Miles Sanders, and then drafted Phil Maffa and Jaden Blue, it sent a clear message. The running back room was about to get crowded, and jobs were up for grabs. In that kind of environment, you can't rely on your name or your story to save you. You've got to prove you can contribute at a high level right now. It's also worth noting how Vaughn's opportunities in preseason have been limited. He was in for the first 2 series, the team went 3 and out twice, and he only touched the ball twice before being pulled. From that point on, Malik Davis got the carries and made the most of them. That's the kind of shift that can change the pecking order fast. So I want to know what you think. Was Deuce Vaughn drafted more for the emotional storyline than his on-field potential? Give me a yes or no in the comments, and make sure you like this video if you believe roster spots should be earned purely on performance. Malik Davis didn't just step onto the field in preseason, he made sure everyone noticed him. Coming in with fresh legs, he ripped off an average of 9 yards per carry, and I don't care who you're playing against, that kind of production makes coaches take a second look. Sure, it came later in the game against backups, but that doesn't erase the fact that he took advantage of every snap he got. And you could tell from the way he ran that this wasn't just another preseason outing for him. It was an opportunity he knew he couldn't waste. Davis hasn't been grinding through camp reps like the others, so there's a good chance that burst came from a combination of adrenaline and rested legs. That said, the film still shows a player hitting holes decisively, finishing runs with authority, and looking like he belonged. This is where things get complicated for Deuce Vaughn. The moment a guy like Davis puts together that kind of performance, especially when you're already on the bubble, your margin for error disappears. coaches start imagining what Davis might do if he got first-team reps, and that's exactly the kind of conversation that pushes someone else down the depth chart. Right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Davis has already moved ahead of Vaughn in the team's internal rankings. Of course, one good game doesn't make a career, and Davis still has to prove he can produce when it's full speed against top defensive talent. But in the NFL, sometimes momentum is all it takes to change your trajectory, and Davis has it right now. If he follows it up with another strong showing, this could turn into a complete role reversal between him and Vaughn. So I'll throw this one to you. Do you think Malik Davis deserves more first-team reps after what we've seen so far? Drop your answer in the comments and make sure you've hit that notification bell so you're the first to know how this battle plays out in the coming days. The truth is, Deuce Vaughn's roster spot is hanging by a thread right now. When you look at the depth in the running back room and the way other guys are stepping up, the numbers just don't work in his favor. The Cowboys aren't going to keep a large stable of backs, and if you start lining up the depth chart, Vaughn is slipping further down. It's a hard reality, but one the NFL doesn't shy away from. This league is all about, what have you done for me lately? And Vaughn hasn't had the chance to show much this preseason. That said, this is the Cowboys we're talking about, and they've never been shy about letting a storyline factor into their decisions. Vaughn's connection to the organization, his underdog size, and the emotional draft moment all still have value in the public eye. And that opens the door to one possible lifeline: the practice squad. Even if he doesn't make the 53-man roster, keeping him around in that capacity would let the team maintain the story, keep fan interest alive, and still have him as an emergency option. It wouldn't be the first time the Cowboys made a move like this. Over the years, they've shown that sometimes public perception and brand identity can play just as big a role as raw on-field production. And with Vaughn's work ethic and likability, there's no doubt fans would be pulling for him, even if he's just practicing during the week. But here's the question. Would that be fair to the other players fighting for a spot? Would keeping Vaughn on the practice squad for the sake of the story take away an opportunity from someone else who might contribute more on game day? That's a tough call, and it's the kind of decision that divides a fan base. So I want your take. Do you think Deuce Vaughn will survive cuts by landing on the practice squad? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, tap that like button if you think the Cowboys should make decisions strictly based on performance. When you zoom out from the Deuce Vaughn situation, you start to see a bigger pattern with the Dallas Cowboys. This isn't just about one player fighting for a roster spot. It's about the way this organization operates. Jerry Jones has built the Cowboys into more than just a football team. They're an entertainment brand, a year-round storyline machine. And sometimes, those storylines aren't just a byproduct of the game. They're carefully crafted to keep the team in the headlines. Take the Micah Parsons contract situation as an example. There's no real reason it couldn't have been wrapped up by now, just like other star contracts around the league. But keeping it hanging out there means every sports show, every podcast, and every YouTube channel is talking about the Cowboys every single day. It's the same with CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott in past years, and now even fringe roster battles like Vaughn's. In Dallas, drama isn't a problem. It's a business strategy, and it works. Whether you love the Cowboys or love to hate them, you're paying attention. That attention turns into clicks, views, merchandise sales, and national relevance. But here's the trade-off. Sometimes it feels like the show takes priority over just building the best possible football team. It's part of why stories like Vaughn's carry weight in roster discussions and why high-profile situations get dragged out longer than necessary. As a fan, it can be frustrating. You want to believe every move is about winning games, not just generating headlines. But in Dallas, those two things have been tied together for decades. And as we get closer to final cuts and the season opener, not to mention a huge matchup with the Eagles coming soon, you have to wonder which will take center stage this year, the football or the show. So let's settle it right here. Do you think the Cowboys care more about winning or making headlines? Cast your vote in the comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single update as we head into game week.